when a person comes up to you, you know, they're new, you know, they don't know much about Islam, and, you know, you just met them off the streets, and they ask you, well, Yusuf, what is Islam? What do you tell people? What do we tell people?
Well, first of all, I have to reflect back and remember how it was from my own condition.
Yes, I thought you would.
Because this is really, when I was talking about SDS, I'm going to work it in, like it or not.
Okay, good.
It's going to happen. That the first thing is that I found myself searching.
Yes.
And I look at other people when they talk to me or they ask me questions. I really believe a lot of people don't know why we're here. Why am I here? What am I doing with my life? Where am I going? What's happening with me?
Yes.
Why am I doing what I do?
Yes.
You know, what is this about? Is this just repetition? I go through the life and then what? Die and that's it? Or, you know, why are we here? So this is a stage of S, meaning search. To search and try to discover what's going on. Well, what then the D stands for? Discover. Because when you discover it and you realize what it is, then the only thing left to do is what? Share.
Share.
And you share it. That's SDS. And I just came up with this leftover baggage, but you got to do that.
Well, we
got to do the
appreciate
letters.
baggage. We appreciate the letters. We live in a society, you got to have letters. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Well, you know what? By the way, you know I live in Washington, D.C. area now. And for sure, in that place, people are crazy about using letters. Letters mean so much to them that the more letters that they use, the more money they're going to charge the taxpayers for it.
Watch out, watch out. So now tell us, someone comes up, they want to know, what is Islam? What do you
First, like I said, I put myself in the mindset of that individual, where he's at with his thinking or where she's at with her thinking. And you have to overcome a lot of stereotyping.
Yes.
Because right
Like
away,
what?
well, immediately when you say Islam, Muslims, people have a tendency to say, oh, is this going to be something to do with terrorism, kidnapping, hijacking, bombing, things like this.
So you got to work through all that stuff first.
I generally have a tendency to just set that over on a shelf and get back to it later.
Right.
Because there are things that go on in the world which nobody can deny. That's true. But at the same time, we want to sift out the truth from the falsehood, and then the stereotyping, and then the misunderstandings and misrepresentation. Because a lot of times you have to realize that people, regardless if they're politicians, reporters, or whoever, they have an agenda. They're trying to accomplish something. And they really don't much care about how many people get run over in the process.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, not all politicians, not all reporters. Just like...
Too many.
Well, yeah. We can say too many. Even one's too many. But so how do you approach somebody is to by going and thinking, get inside their head and think, how do they feel? They're looking at me standing there like this and wearing this garb that I have on, or how you're dressed like that, and already they're kind of put off like, what is this? What's going on here with this? But also it's advertising for Islam. Because people will say to you, well, I'm going to be brave, I want to go up and ask him, are you one of them Muslims? Right. Or what do you Islamics think about this or that? Or how come you guys do so-and-so?
How come you wear that? Do you have to wear that?
Yeah.
That has happened to me often, too.
Yeah. Or like in the case of the women, they'll say, do you force them to dress like this or something like that? It gives you a chance to open the door of conversation.
Yes.
So you can help them in their search. And it's not necessary to go into such subjects and get details on things where it's not really the mainstream issue.
Which is?
Well, the mainstream issue, of course, in Islam is to focus on what is the Tawheed, or the oneness of God. Because without that, there's no Islam. There isn't anything else. The rest of it's conversation. The rest of it's politics. The rest of it is just somebody coming up with excuses to make problems for other people. The key to the whole thing is to have the correct understanding about it. Is there a God? Number one. Is there proof? And then, who is the God? What's the concept or the nature of the God? And then, why did he put me here?
Right.
See, if we can get that together, then we can move forward.
Well, help us get that together, please.
Well, first of all, let's prove there's a God. Or prove that there isn't. Because a lot of the people will come to you right away and they'll say, well, no, everything all started from a big bang, some dense material in space, and it blew up, and that started everything. Well, if that's the case, if that's the way it is, then where did intelligence come from? Where does life come from out of death? Or not inanimation? How does a rock suddenly sprout tree leaves? And, you know, so you have to look at some basic thing and discover there must be something. If you recognize this as a creation, you have to acknowledge a creator.
Absolutely.
Does it make sense?
Absolutely.
If you're walking along the beach and you see sand and you see footprints in the sand, and you notice that it's barefoot and it's going in that direction, you don't say that the ocean came in and depressed those down like that. You know that
just happened to be there.
Yeah, you wouldn't say that.
No, just someone was here.
I remember being in a military installation one time, and we had one or two that were absolutely don't believe anything, and there were maps on the wall of the building, you know. So I asked, "Does everybody here believe in God?" Yes. Okay, and anybody doesn't? They said there was 2 or 3, I guess. They didn't believe at all, nothing. I said, "Why?" They said, "Because we don't see it, we don't hear it, we don't taste it, don't smell it, don't feel it." In other words, it's sensory. There's no perception of God, so why should I believe in a God? I said, "So you have to see God created to believe it." They said, "That's right." I said, "Okay, how many of you see these maps on the walls here?" Everybody put their hands up. I said, "You guys that said that a minute ago, put your hands back down." They said, "Why?" I said, "Because if you have to see the artist do the work, then these are not maps to you. This is just paper and ink."
That's right, if that. So there's an illusion, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talk to people and we get them to accept step 1. There must be a God. There's a creation, so there must be creator. Because there's only 2 things that does exist. It's either creator or it's creation. And the 2 aren't similar, okay? This is what Islam teaches. I don't know what other people teach, but the creator has his names and attributes, and we have our attributes, and they're not the same. Okay, we've got past that. There's a creation. Of course, there's a creator. Then where do we take them?
Actually, I don't want to run away from that point too fast.
Okay.
Because this is where a lot of religion goes nuts. Is not being able to make the differentiation between the creator and the creation. They'll say everything is made out of God, or a remnant of God, or a part of a garment of God.
Or God is in me.
Or God's everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're children of God. So we're all particles of God. Or, like you said, God is in me. Because all of that will misguide the person. You're still messed up because you can't resolve some issues. Because if God is in the creation, who created God? And then if God's in the creation, then who takes care of God? Because there's a dual factor, not just a creator. You have to understand there's also a sustainer. So this is not the same role. Create something, you can walk away and leave it.
Like a car deal. They make a car and they just walk away and leave it.
Don't pick up
after you buy it, at least.
But seriously, so who's going to take care of this creation? And who is the one taking care of to see that this happens and that happens and so and so and so? So we as Muslims accept there's a creator, but at the same time he's a sustainer of all. And he's not created, guess what else? He's also not sustained. Look what he said in the Quran. In the Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Allahu la ilaha illahu al-hayyul qayyum, la ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm. And it says here, Allah, He is the one beside whom there's none other to worship. Now He is alive, the living God. He's alive, and at the same time He's self-subsisting. He doesn't die, He doesn't need sustenance. Then He follows up with that and He says, and He doesn't sleep. No, He doesn't sleep and He doesn't get tired.
Right.
So this is important to
sleep
establish.
and slumber doesn't overtake Him. Yes.
That's easy for you to say. But the point we're trying to get across to folks is that in Islam we do have a different God in a sense, because a lot of people say, well, your Allah is not like my God. Well, I don't know what your God is, but my God's real.
Yes.
Okay? And He's not in His creation. I can't grab Him or a part of Him and damage Him. And He says, God says, that if all of His creation came together at the same time to try to benefit Him in any possible way, they could never benefit Him. At the same time, if they all came together to try to damage Him or do something against Him, they can't.
Right.
Why? Because they're creation, He's the creator. Right. They're sustained and He's sustained. He has a name, by the way, called As-Samad. I love this name. Eternally sought after through all eternity by His creation for their sustenance. A big name, but look how easy it is to say it in Arabic. As-Samad. As-Samad. And He tells us that in the Quran. And He says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul hu Allahu ahad, Allahu samad.
Yes.
Is it beautiful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Say He is Allah the unique. He's Allah the unique. I love that. Ahad. And He is samad. Samad meaning that He is eternally sought after through all times by His creation for their sustenance.
Yes. Okay, so we establish Allah as a creator, separate from creation, and He's al-Khaliq, He's the creator of everything. He's al-Rabb, He's the nourisher and sustainer of everything. And He's al-Malik, He's the owner of everything. And He's the one who does this, but He Himself is not sustained. He Himself is not created. Okay, and He doesn't look like you. He's not a white guy. He's not a black guy. He's not a woman. He's not a man. Now,
He's a God.
He's Allah. He's
okay.
And now,
but watch this. So go back to those guys who said we don't see it, we don't smell it, we don't taste it, we don't hear it, we don't feel it, we don't believe in it. Okay, let's go like this. If you can hear it, if you can see it, if you can smell it, taste it, feel it, or imagine it, then it's not God.
There you go. I like.
Go the reverse way. It's not, is it? Absolutely. I got another one for you. Do Muslims believe in evolution? Now this is a good one because most of the people say, well, you believe in God, then you don't believe in evolution. Or you believe in evolution, don't believe in God. So you got the scientists on the one side, the Christians on the other side, fighting each other. Well, we don't have that problem.
No, we
He's Al-Khalaq, which is the creator, and he's Al-Bari, which is the evolver.
That's right.
So if there's creation, he created it, and if there's evolution, he evolved it.
That's right.
Right or wrong?
That's right.
But we solved some other problems. Some of the dumb problems that you've heard about for centuries, you think they're not big. No, to us, we can solve any problem with Islam. Look, which came first, chicken or the egg? Well, they say, well, chicken. Well, where'd the chicken come from? The egg. Where'd the egg come from? The chicken, and they play that. You ever heard that one?
Yes, I've heard.
Islam gave you the answer. Allah said He created everything in pairs. Pairs. Both male, female, chicken, and rooster. Forget about the egg.
That's right.
That came later.
Yeah, that's right. Very good point.
After the chicken learned what the rooster was about, all that.
After they were guided to procreate, right? Well, listen. Now, all right, we've got that. Now, what about? You mentioned something. Why am I here? We only have about maybe 2 minutes left to this part of the show, and then we'll go to the second half. But why am I here? I know we say the Quran teaches us, "Ma khalaqtul jinna wal insana illa liya'budun." We have not created the jinn nor the human being except that we should worship Allah, except for worship.
This is the purpose of life.
So
when I came to that point, what I did, I put my head on the ground, facing toward the direction I'd seen this Muslim. I was trying to convert a Muslim.